And we are back here on FYNTV.com. It is the bottom of the hour here in beautiful LJ, Georgia. Man, it is hot. Real hot. That's one of the hotter 4th of Julys I remember, but at the same time, I think it's hot every 4th of July. Just the time of the year. Not because of climate change. I think it's just the way it is. The enthusiasm for President Trump, this is something else I brought up by saying, kind of jokingly, he is still very much the president since the last time I saw you 1 year, 8 months, and 23 days ago. I think at that time he was calling Kim Jong-un Little Rocket Man, and we actually got in a little bit of trouble for playing the classic Elton John song. But that's neither here nor there. Since then, they have met a couple, 2-3 times. As you are well aware, it was quite a famous meeting. It was some pretty incredible stuff when he stepped over the DMZ the other week. But he's still in it, and the point I want to make about that, something that you won't hear on the nightly news. In fact, they'll do anything they can to suppress it. President Trump has more enthusiasm than I think I've ever seen. He has figured out, well, kind of like what Obama did, but he has created a brand, right? Which, of course, every president does that, but the sense of marketing the brand of Trump, and that he's brought that to the Oval Office. A quick case in point. Full disclosure, I am the chairman of the local Republican Party here in Gilmer County. And for the 4th of July, we decided that as a fundraiser, we would sell stickers and Make America Great Again hats. My expectation, I don't want to discount, you never want to set the goal too high, right? You never want to aggrandize, the notion that we're going to go out there and we're gonna make a lot. As the leader of the group, I kept expectations low. Well, I was blown away. I think we sold all but 5 of our 200 hats. People everywhere were coming and saying, "I want to get that," and a lot of out of towners too. As you all know, we have a lot of visitors here over the 4th of July holiday. A lot of Florida folks, a lot of folks from the Northeast, Tennessee, Alabama. And one thing struck me. This little girl came up to our table, and she wanted to buy a hat, and we sold it to her. And her dad walked up, and the little girl said to us, she says, "Is it all right if I wear this?" I'm saying there, well, yeah, it's a hat. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to wear it. And she said, "Well, are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, of course you can." And her dad was standing there, and he kind of half laughed, and he said, "Well, she lives with her mom in New Jersey, and she would be expelled from school if she were to wear that in our hometown. Not even at school, but just if she were to wear it and someone saw it, there would be a complaint, and she would be expelled from school." Is that the America you want to live in? I think not. I think we all know this kind of thing goes on. And I think that exemplifies his popularity. Because when he was elected in 2016, there were a lot of people who viewed him, they were kind of on the fence about it. They knew he wasn't Hillary Clinton. But they also knew that he was unlike any other Republican they'd ever seen. So, just with his style and with his, just how he is. You all know what I'm talking about with the Twitter and whatnot. So, that 2016 election happened, and the world was shook. It was like Bobby Thompson all over again. Shot heard around the world. So, if we look at what's happened since then, you have the 2018 midterm elections, which the media has been able to spin it into a landslide victory for the Democrats. But in reality, that's not what happened. I mean, the Republicans gained seats in the Senate. In the House, they lost, like if you look at District 6 in Georgia and District 7, which the Republicans held on to, but they're both very similar, Republicans only lost by like 1 point. There wasn't a whole lot of Republicans getting beat in landslides. It just didn't happen. So when you factor in the notion of off-year elections and the party in power tends to lose, so that's baked into the cake, as they say. When you take that into account, and then you think about how Obama, for instance, lost way more in 2010, which due to Obamacare, we've already talked about that. But the Trump momentum carried the Republicans in 2018 to where it wasn't nearly as bad as what happened to Obama in 2010 during his first midterm. It was on the heels of Kavanaugh, and I worked on the campaign to elect Governor Brian Kemp. And when we were out in the field, the one thing we heard more than anything was about the way Trump's been treated, whether it was Kavanaugh or whether it was this nonsense in Russia, which had yet to be completed. Which if I ever come back, if I'm on again, I really want to take a deep dive into Robert Mueller and when he knew that there was no collusion, which I can guarantee you was before the 2018 midterm elections. But he's going to testify next week, I think, so I'm sure there'll be more to come on that. But the larger point I'm getting at with Trump and the prospects for 2020, when you look at his electorate, he was able to, if this is the electorate right here, right, and you have right and left, and then you have the middle. When President Obama ran, both times, he was able to make everybody think that he was fighting over the middle, and Romney and McCain both were going after these independents. When in reality, if you have this electorate, Obama was able to expand his base, right? So that left very little for the Republicans. Well, Trump has taken that same exact strategy. He's widened the base. There's more registered voters, more people voting than ever before. Despite what Stacey Abrams will tell you, the state of Georgia set records, and it was an off-year election. More people voted than in 2016. She got more votes than Hillary Clinton. So consider that for a second. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. So when you think about this, that middle is still rather relevant, right? These are the people, and then even a little toward into the right, your country club Republican types that never wanted any part of Trump, never thought he could win, thought he was crazy, and are too prideful to admit as such. That group voted for Hillary Clinton. Her numbers were inflated by that, right? So when you consider that, consider how many of those people have since come on board. I know at least 30 people in my own life that I'm friends with that were, I don't know about Trump. I'm going to vote for Evan McMullen, or I might just sit this one out, who have since started wearing MAGA hats. It's unreal. And it's a byproduct of how the media treats him. And that's how you know he's winning. That's how you know he's still on the charge and gaining traction and momentum. When people say the Trump train, it really is like a train going down a mountain, slowly but surely gaining momentum to the point where it's coming at you and can't stop. I think that's the thing to remember for 2020. An ABC News poll was just released, I believe, over the weekend, and his approval rating was at an all-time high, nearly 50%, which when you look at an electorate and you say, 50%, well, I mean, that's not a majority, but, no one wins with a majority of votes anyway. So to be at 50% or 49%, is incredible. That's higher than Obama. I think Obama peaked out before the 2012 election at like 46.5%, 47%. But then ABC turned around and gave, and they described the polling data not as the registered voters, but they went with all Americans, aka non-registered voters, that they also asked the question to, and his approval rating was only like 44%. So they will lie. We know this. They'll misconstrue the truth to make it seem like he's not as popular as he really is. But when to circle back, the enthusiasm of the people on the 4th of July to buy the hats, buy the stickers, was unreal. Something I can't even imagine people doing that for George Bush. You know what I mean? It's unreal, the enthusiasm, and that's what wins elections. If people are fired up to support someone, that's what wins, because all other candidates pale in comparison when you have people that are hell bent on making it happen. Because those are the people, without even being told, without even being organized, without even joining a party or a field organizing team, those are the kind of people that are still going to bring 5 people out to vote with them. Coalition voters who don't even need to be reminded, who aren't even on the radar of the hot voting list or the data list. That's how elections are won, and obviously nothing should be taken for granted, and every effort still needs to be made. But that's something that I feel goes untold, and that's why I wanted to take the opportunity to recount this story in a way that, if you're worried out there, if you get worried about the notion that, oh my God, he's going to lose, we're losing, take solace in the fact that people are so fired up about this guy, just as fired up as you are, about keeping him in office. And when it comes to the suburban areas, the places where we lost in 2018, keep in mind that since then, Russia has been fully debunked, and it's even going to get bigger. We're going to find out a lot of things about the Democrat establishment of the last 25, 30 years. And the Democrats are going to go further and further left. That's not what those people voted for. They did. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, they're not suburban Democrats. Those aren't the people who won the House back for Nancy Pelosi. The people who won the House back for Nancy Pelosi ran on no impeachment, health care, moderate issues, pro-business issues. They haven't delivered that. And people take notice of it. They see what's going on. They see that Lucy McBath hasn't set up constituent services. They see that Lucy McBath who's from District 6, by the way, when she was elected and took office, she did fluff pieces on how she wants to take away guns for months on NBC and CNN and every left-wing blog. And then since then, it's been radio silence because they know that she's in trouble. So take solace in the notion that the Democrats are split apart, and they're going to do all they can to go further and further to the left because they think with Donald Trump in office, that gives them an excuse to do so, and that's going to hurt them. It's going to be like 2012 when the Republicans didn't know which direction to go, and the media basically called Romney the presumptive nominee the entire time. It's going to be similar to that, except it's going to be similar to that in the sense that the media is going to try to engineer it. But where it's going to be different than 2012 is I think we could have all-out chaos. Because when you think of, and I don't want to get too deep into this, we need to go to break here. But when you think about the changes they've made to the process, the superdelegate process, and the idea, it all goes back to when RFK was shot, when he was going to be the nominee, and all hell broke loose in 1968. And instead of watching the convention, we watched kids get beat up by the Chicago police. So the notion of super delegates and that whole process kind of spurred off of making sure that didn't happen again. And it gave us Jimmy Carter. And then when we got Jimmy Carter, it's like, okay, so we need the super delegates now to make sure that doesn't happen. We have the primary voting process, the Democratic process, gave us Jimmy Carter, and then that was a disaster. So then the super delegates came in. Sorry, I need to correct myself there. So it brought order to the party. But now, after what happened with Bernie Sanders and the changes they've made, it's wide open. And when you have this many candidates, I don't think there's going to be a Donald Trump that sets himself apart so much from the rest of the crowd to where he'll consistently get 20, 25% in a crowded field. I think we could see states where Kamala Harris wins, and then another state where Mayor Pete wins, and another state where Biden squeaks one out. Maybe not, but I think Biden's toast. But you could see Beto O'Rourke win Texas. They may, and I know that every year, every election cycle, this happens where, a brokered election, it could happen. That notion comes up every 4 years. This time, I think it might really happen. Because if they roll in to, I think it's going to be in Milwaukee. If they roll into Milwaukee and no one has a majority of delegates, and there are no longer any super delegates who can, sway it one way or the other, it's going to be must-see TV. NBC needs to make sure that the copyright to that must-see TV phrase has not expired, because a lot of people are going to use that one, because they are going to go at it. You're going to see activists shaking signs and Antifa masks and all kind of wild stuff fighting over who the nominee is going to be. And Trump will be live tweeting it all. Imagine that one. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, it is Parade Day. I'm going to tell you my thoughts on a couple things about the parade that's taking place, I think, right now for our World Cup champion women's soccer team. So stay tuned. I'm Richie Stone, in for BKP, who's on assignment. Catch you in a minute.